Thank you so much. Well, I'm Robbie's dad. Those of you who know Robbie. Uh, I want to start by telling you a story. Before I tell you the story, I was so excited to come here and do this for the students. This forced me to think about my 40-year career and put it in perspective and to understand the path to success. It's a really simple story, but I want the kids to understand this story because of the expectations we put on you. So I'm going to open up this story when I was 16 years old, the age of many of the children in this room today. Now, I came from a place called Baltimore, and some of you know Baltimore, others don't, but Baltimore, in America, we call it a blue-collar city. And why is it a blue-collar city? Because the steel mills were there, and they made cars there, and it was a heavy industrial city. And it was a very tough place to grow up. And when I was 16 years old, I was in a car with 3 other of my buddies. And no one had very high expectations for us. So we were cruising, and one of my friends said, I have a gun. We're going to rob a convenience store. Now, if you think it takes guts to rob a convenience store, you wouldn't believe the guts it takes to get out of the car. So I knew at that moment that my path had started. So I got out of the car. What happened? They robbed the convenience store. They went to jail. Can you imagine? Now, I tell you this story because it's the importance of choosing your own path in life. Now, all the students in this room, your parents have extraordinarily high expectations for you. But it's your path. It's not your parents' path. It's not your professor's path. It's not your friend's path. It's your path. You need to have the courage, the conviction, and the self-knowledge to choose your own path. Don't let anyone else choose your own path. So then what happens? Well, I came from a family that was not very educated. My dad went to the 3rd grade. My mom barely read or write. Barely could read or write. So at that point, I said to myself, I need to get educated. Now, at 16, I was in the 10th grade, and I was a terrible student, okay? But after this incident, I said to myself, I've got to buckle down. So in the 11th and 12th grade, I started working harder to try to educate myself. I was not a very good reader, so it was very difficult for me. But I got through, and I was lucky enough in those days, it was a lot easier to get into college. So I was lucky enough to get into Loyola College, where I met a lot of professors who helped mentor me. I did fairly well in college. I was very proud of myself. But at the end of college, I said to myself, what am I going to do next? And I decided on hospitality. It was something when I was younger. I valet parked cars. I worked in a little restaurant. So it was something I had a bit of a passion for. So I went to the University of Nevada hotel school. But the funny thing is, I'll give you another little anecdote. I do a lot of work and I'm very involved in Cornell at the hotel school. They turned me down. They turned me down. I was devastated, okay? But I went out to the University of Nevada. They had a beginning hotel school, and I needed to work to pay my tuition. The tuition was $750 a year. That was so much money. So I got a job at Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. Okay? Now, I know you've all seen The Hangover, right? Okay. Now, I was a mail and information clerk at Caesar's Palace. That was the absolute lowest job on the totem pole. And let me tell you, you had to wear a toga. Now, you think I'm kidding, but I'm not kidding. You had to wear a toga. Now, the first year, I wore a maroon toga. And then the second year, I wore a white toga. That's right, a toga. Okay? But I was so excited every single day that I walked in that hotel. I was so excited because I knew I was starting my path. I'm a believer in starting at the bottom. And there are reasons to start at the bottom. I don't believe there's shortcuts. I think you need to make progress every day. But starting at the bottom does something that's very interesting for you. It creates an intuitiveness about the business that you have decided to go into. Robbie, my son, calls it hotel smarts. I can walk in a hotel with anybody, and within gaining eye contact with a half a dozen employees, looking around quickly, I can tell you probably 99% of the time how well that hotel does, how the guests feel about that hotel, the profitability of that hotel. It's an intuitiveness. It's so important. You only become intuitive about your business when you start at the bottom. There's no crime to this. Don't let your parents tell you you can't start at the bottom. I knew the hotel business was for me at Caesar's Palace. I know it wasn't a glamorous job. I knew the hotel industry had limitless possibilities for me. So I graduated from University of Nevada, worked full time, went to school full time, and I got my first hotel job. There he is. The DoubleTree Inn in Tucson, Arizona. Now, I don't know if you all know about Tucson, Arizona. Spaghetti westerns, right? Tumbleweed, okay, sand, okay. The average room rate was $8 a night, okay? $8. We're staying at some fancy hotel tonight in Geneva. It's like 700 Swiss francs. I love this hotel. And I want to tell you why I love this hotel. I love this hotel because I started honing my management skills. I started understanding how to be a manager. And I also began to understand what your social IQ is all about. You know, your social IQ is as important as your SAT scores. I know no one tells you that, but I'm here to tell you that is a fact. And I want you to all figure out what your social IQ is. And I hope it's higher than your SAT scores. So, what happened? From this job, I started moving up the ladder. Every job I got was better than the next job. Why was that? Because I never cared about the next job. I only cared about the job I was doing. So this is an unbelievable picture. In 1986, I ran this hotel. This was one of the most amazing hotels in America in 1986. And that's in Palm Springs, California. And I want to tell you a story about problem solving that came out of this hotel. I know most of you know what the NFL is, the National Football League. Even if you're not American, you know about the National Football Team. In 1987, when I was running this hotel, we had the National Football Team owners meeting in this hotel. And one of the owners was a fellow by the name of Al Davis. By the way, Al Davis was born on October 8th, just like me. He was the meanest, nastiest, toughest guy you've ever met in your life. Okay? And everyone in the NFL knew it because he had the dirtiest players. Now, he was supposed to have a suite. But the NFL, who booked this meeting, didn't like Al Davis. And we didn't have enough suites in the hotel. So Al was the only only owner who didn't get a suite. He calls me to his room. So I go sheepishly to his room, and he starts reading me the riot act. I said, Mr. Davis, I never would call him Al. I said, Mr. Davis, and he had all these big heavy weights in his room. He was a weightlifter. I said, Mr. Davis, you go to dinner. When you come back, you'll have a suite. Now that was a brazen thing to say, right? So he goes off to dinner. I assemble the engineering department. I tell him to bring a chainsaw. Okay? We go into the room and the room next door, and we start cutting a door between the two rooms. We had carpenters, we had painters. I had someone going around the hotel finding furniture that could look like a suite. We put this thing together in about 3.5 hours. He came back, he could not believe it. Why am I telling you this story? I'm telling you this story because I don't want you worrying about what other people think of your solutions. People might have thought that was the craziest solution in the world. Get a chainsaw, get it here, cut the door. But I knew I had one thing I wanted to do. I wanted to make Al Davis happy. And I think that has a lot to do when you're on your path and your success. Now, in the following years, I moved up the ladder so quickly. And there were many, many jobs, but about 15 years ago, 17 years ago, I went to work for Blackstone. And I would tell you that that's probably what most people know about me. Now, I want to tell you what Blackstone is. Blackstone is one of the largest investment banks in the world. But more than that, we are the largest owner of hospitality assets in the world. Today we currently own either own, manage, or franchise 1,250,000 rooms worldwide. But I want to tell you the first story. I was with them for about 6 months, and my partner said to me, "We're going to buy the Savoy Group in London." Now, I know everyone here, a lot of people here in Europe know the Savoy Group. 4 unbelievable hotels. Claridge's, where kings and queens meet and get married and go to have tea. The Connaught, the ultimate men's club in the world. And you can see how I dress, so the Connaught. The Savoy, where Caesar Ritz was the first manager, which was the first hotel that ever had room service, the first hotel ever to have elevators, and then the Barclay. So we bought this company, and I was the managing partner, and many thought that I was not the right person for this job. You know why I wasn't the right person for that job? They didn't think I was worldly enough. They didn't think I was sophisticated enough. They just didn't think I could interact with the type of customers that went to this hotel. Okay? But I knew that my walk down my path, since the moment I got out of that car, prepared me to do this job. Well, what we accomplished in London was beyond anyone's expectations. I would go so far to say we reinvented the hotel business in Europe. Now, there's one word I use when I think about that, and that's authentic. When I ran that group, I was authentic. I was the same person who worked at Caesar's Palace without the toga, okay, when we ran that group. No matter who I dealt with, I was authentic. And I think that is so important for the kids to know. You need to stay authentic to who you are. So today at Blackstone, we've done many, many deals. I'm on the board of Hilton Hotels. We own Hilton Hotels, La Quinta Hotels, Motel 6, all these fabulous companies, okay? But I'm still the same person. So to close, I want to talk about the tortoise and the hare. I think that fable epitomizes what it means to stay on your path. Believing in one's abilities, overcoming challenges and obstacles. And if I can, I'd like to read it to you. It says, "The hare was once boasting of his speed before the other animals. I have never yet been beaten when I put my full speed. I challenge anyone here to a race." The tortoise said quietly, "I accept your challenge." "Is that a joke?" said the hare. "I could run circles around you." "Keep your boasting till you've won," answered the tortoise. "Let's race." So a course was decided upon. The race began. The hare darted almost out of sight at once, but soon stopped to show his contempt for the tortoise, and he laid down to take a nap. The tortoise plodded on, and when the hare awoke from his nap, he saw the tortoise just near the winning post and could not run fast enough to save the race. He lost. And what did he say? Slow and steady wins the race. So one more time, I want to tell you, thank you for having me, and slow and steady wins the race. Thank you.